Hi. First of all, thanks KidsABILITY for inviting me to this event and this workshop. I'm really, really happy and proud to be part of this project as well. And today I want to talk about considerations for accommodating the needs of learners with disability. Let me introduce myself first. My name is Adrián Bolonio. I am from Spain, from Madrid. I work as an accessibility software engineer at GitHub, where we follow or try to follow all accessibility principles, specifically in the online world with digital products. You can find me almost anywhere, especially in Twitter, under my surname. My surname is Bolonio, Bolonio. So let's talk about accessibility first. It is really obvious in the real world that those four situations are completely wrong, right? We have, in the first two situations, we have a very steep ramp. In the third situation, we have a ramp, and at the end of the ramp, there are a couple of stairs. And in the fourth ramp, we have something very, very unusable. Let me put you another example. There is someone who's arriving in a wheelchair, and there is an accessible button, and this person pressed the button, the door opens automatically, but surprise, there are stairs at the other end of the door. So this is clearly wrong. And it's very obvious that it's wrong in the real world. But when we move to a digital world, an online world, it's not that obvious that a digital product, a site, is not accessible. When we talk about web accessibility, we talk about tools, we talk about websites, we talk about technologies that they are designed to not to exclude anyone, including people with disabilities. So we need to have this in mind when we build our products. It doesn't matter if it's a website, if it's a digital product, if it's an online platform. We need to have this in mind that we need to design it and develop it for everyone to use it. Let me put you an example in this online world that we were talking about. So you go to your favorite online shop and you want to maybe find your latest purchases, and you call the support team, and they can tell you something like, oh, you need to click in the button in the top right corner. Or maybe you want to find your email address and you want to change it, so maybe they can tell you something like, you need to click in the button with the engine icon. But for someone who is blind, there's no such a button who looks like an engine, or top right corner, there's not mouse navigation here. So again, we need to have this very much in mind when we develop our products. It might be that you've heard, and we mainly made the mistake of thinking that web accessibility is only visually impaired people, specifically blind people. But we know that there are a lot of types of impairments. So we have touch-based impairments, hear, speak, see-based impairment, and we can classify them as well as permanent, temporary, or situational. So, for example, in touch, we have someone with one arm only, and this is clearly a permanent impairment. Or maybe we have someone with an arm injury. Maybe a kid had some injury playing in the playground. So this is a temporary impairment. Or we have situational impairments as well. Maybe a father has their own child in one arm, and then they need to use the computer only with one hand. So this is another situational impairment. So with this in mind, we can understand the nature of our users. Let me give you some quick numbers. In the world, we've been a couple of years ago, 1 year ago, 7.9 billion people. And globally, more than 2.2 billion people are visually impaired. And included in these people, of course, there are children or students, people who are in learning phase, and we need to have this in mind. Blindness and vision impairment is a very, very serious thing and can cause lower levels of education achievement sometimes, especially for school-age children with those kind of visual impairments. Especially in low-income countries, congenital cataract is, for example, a leading cause of this blindness, where in middle-income countries it is more likely like retinopathy. For example, this can be causing adults and children as well. So again, have this in mind when we create our products. But today, let's go a bit deeper on how to accommodate the needs of learners with disabilities. So what I'm going to show you is the first thing that we need to do, and we are going to see some of the impairments and which tools can we use for each of the impairments. So again, the first thing that we can do is first identify the needs of the learners, right? Special learning needs come in many forms, right? We've seen a lot of these different kind of impairments. In finding and designing suitable solutions, it is the first step to understand the needs of the students, and of course, when using an education platform. The common types that may be encountered can be visual impairment, hearing impairment, coordination or motor skills impairment, communication difficulties, and specific learning difficulties. So let's see one by one, how can we adapt and accommodate our tools and which technologies can be used. So let's start with the first one, vision impairment. So students with limited sight content can be difficult to read and distinguish when text is too small or the contrast inadequate. So what I put here is the three main topics and the three main mistakes that digital products and websites and of course online platforms for learning purposes have. Okay, so the first one is low contrast text. Low contrast text, what is this? The color contrast between the text and the background color where this text is going to be located. For example, a button or a card, right? What tools can we use to fix this issue? Well, we can use color contrast checkers. There are several in the market. Or we can create our own design tokens. So in our learning platform, we can say that our corporate image is, I don't know, black and orange, or yellow and green, or we can use blue and white. But we need to create those design tokens, those colors, with the mind that they need to pass the color contrast check. Or we can use themes, so light theme, dark theme, high color contrast theme, etc. The second biggest mistake is missing alternate text for images. So every image has to have an alternate text. In HTML, we can do it with the alt attribute in the image. How can we be sure that all our images in the platform have alternate text? So we can pass automated test. And the two best automate test engine that I can recommend to you are AXE and PA11Y. Or we can create and perform manual tests, and the best way to do it, apart from using a screen reader, is browser extension. There are several browser extensions that we can use to find issues in our website, in our web product, and of course finding all these images without alternate text. And the third main mistake is empty links and empty buttons. So the thumb rule here is links leads you somewhere and buttons perform action. So when you click a button, you don't go to a new page, you perform an action, you save an option, you send a test result, you send a comment in a forum. When you use a link, you want to use it to a different page. And HTML semantically have those two elements. So if you want to use a button, use the element button. In HTML, you don't have to use a div with an onClick handler. This is incorrect. The same when you want to use a link, use an anchor link, the A element, with an href, which is the destination that you want to go. So those are the tools and the techniques that we can use to accommodate an online platform to learn to people, or in this case with students with vision impairment. Let's see about hearing impairments, so deaf or hard hearing impairments. What we can use, and what techniques and what tools we can provide to make full use of solutions to rely on audio to present content like videos. So the first one is to provide text transcripts and of course captions whenever a sound appears. It doesn't need to be a video only, it can be a only audio clip. Synchronize with the video content, those captions, live captions if it's in a streaming, or cues in addition to sound in apps. What is this important? Because not everyone can, of course, hear the sound of a video, for example. So it is very beneficial to create captions, but not only captions, as well transcripts. I want to read the full transcript without the need to see the video, or at the same time, or actually I want to see the video and then I want to read the transcripts later to get more context. So this is very important. As well, sign language interpretation can be beneficial, especially while transmitting live content. We already talked about live captions when you are streaming a video and live, but there are a lot of people with reading difficulties, or maybe the captions cannot be displayed for them. So what they need is sign language interpretation. And of course, clear media player controls. We are not talking only deaf people, but hearing impairments. I can maybe hear only 50%. So I want to have a clear media player control to increase the volume of the video or the audio so I can hear better. And those are the techniques and tools that you can use to accommodate better the students with hearing impairments. What about coordination and motor skills impairment? Okay, so students may have trouble with standard methods for interacting with technology, such as a keyboard or maybe a touch device with certain gestures. What can we do to help those students? So students with motor disabilities can be supported by effective keyboard navigations. Maybe we can use shortcuts, or maybe a better way of navigate using the keyboard, maybe only using our tab key to jump between interactive elements and enter for performing the action. Reduce the actions that require too many key presses. So for example, we know that copy and paste is a combination of Control or Command C and Command B. But maybe we can reduce the actions that require to many key presses. Maybe we can reduce those to only C and V in our platform, or maybe R to reply to a comment, or maybe S to send a task. So think about when you develop those platforms to analyze what shortcuts are you going to implement. And of course, add a search field to the platform. This is very useful, not only for motor skills, but for this kind of impairment, it's very easy to go directly to the search and then just type what I'm searching, go directly to the element, to the page, to the component that I'm trying to find. So I don't need to use that many keyboard, that many mouse interactions, maybe touch interaction. So we are reducing the scope of the interaction that we are doing. So this is very, very helpful for them. Let's take a look at the next one, communication difficulties. not everyone can communicate in the same way, and not everyone understand the communication in the same way. So how can we help those students? We can use bigger text and bullet points to keep writing at minimum and make everything clear. For example, in my slides, I'm using bullet points and I'm using very clear titles. So you know what topic I'm talking in every slide, and I'm reducing the text that I have in every slide, so it's very schematic. Too much color can make reading harder for someone as well. So in this slide, for example, I'm using just a combination on white and a gray, dark gray. So we don't have so many confusions between colors and text. And as well, we've seen before, for visually impaired students, color contrast is very important. So red, blue, green, they are not the same for everyone. We have a lot of color blind students, and red is not the same for someone with protanopia, for example. So we cannot rely only on red is wrong, is danger, is something bad, and green is something good. We cannot do this. We need to add an icon, a text complementary to those colors. As well, ask open questions that don't have simple yes or no answer. For example, in exams or in homework, we need to understand that people want to communicate and needs to improve their communication skills. So yes and no, there are sometimes, of course, a binary situation. So it might be that they are very confused on those answers. And take your time. Don't rush communication. So if students are not well in communicating and they have communicating difficulties, take it easy. Take your time. If they need more content, again, bullet points, keep writing at a minimum, be very clear, bigger text in the topics, but very, very clear communication. So we are helping the other side of the platform, the student, to understand better what we are expecting from them. And the last one, specific learning difficulties. Okay, we may have students who have dyslexia or dyscalculia, right, which is wording or numbers, or attention disorder, can struggle to comprehend and make sense of the content, which only, of course, also affects the ability to respond accurately or productively. So, for example, if we have student with dyslexia, okay, what we can do, we can increase the font size at least 12 or 14 points, of course, in the correct semantic on CSS. In this case, we are going to use REM. Sorry. The font type. There are a lot of font types for dyslexia. They are adapted for people with dyslexia, and I recommend you to use them every time that you can use. Of course, use larger line spacing. If the text is very compressed, it's very difficult for them to understand what is written there. And avoid uppercase, so it looks like it's shouting, right? And use bold text to symbolize important pieces of text. Don't use italic for that, use bold. This is very clear for someone with dyslexia that this text is important for them to read. The other way around, dyscalculia, right, which is with more numbers and maths. So in this case, let's use visual demonstrations. If we can have a sorting method that numbers are needs to change position, then make a visual demonstration, make the number float around. Instruction, directions given in different channels, either written, spoken, or demonstration. This is very helpful. Use videos, text. Of course, we talk about videos and sound. We need to use videos with captions and transcript, but use them correctly. Use demonstrations, visual representation. images with alternate text. Use them in different channels, in the forum, in the exams, etc. Supplementary aids, so vocabulary, multiplication cards, anything that we can help, we should use. And we are talking about an online and a digital product. So we can have a glossary with vocabulary, and then we can copy and paste. We can use our keywords, our mouse, multiplication cards. Maybe we can even make a game. So you need to put the results, and then it's gonna tell us if it's good or not. We can make it dynamic, but always having in mind what we're talking about. So communication difficulties, we need to make it very clear that this is a game, that this is the position that we need to put a number or a text or whatever. This is very, very important for a student to understand correct what is the expectation that we want from them. So those are the 5 needs or the impairments that we are going to find, or the main ones that we're going to find in learners, in students. And I've already told you what tools and techniques you can use when building an application like that. What I want you to do is to discuss in groups what other tools, techniques, ideas that you have in every section. So at the end, we are gonna have a batch of ideas, techniques, tools that we can use to build a proper and a better online platform or education platform for the students to have the best experience when they are learning new things. Because the most important thing here is that students, kids are learning as much as they can, but with the best experience. It doesn't matter if they have any impairment or not. So this is what I want you to do. Again, gather in groups, find the impairment that you think you're gonna have better ideas for, and try to write the ideas, techniques, tools that you think they're gonna be important for that group. I'm gonna finish this workshop just saying that if you want to read more about accessibility, I normally write in my blog, and I want to take advantage and recommend you a course. It's an introduction to web accessibility, and it is not for technical people only. You can learn a lot from web accessibility, and it's an official course by the W3C, which is the community that set the standards for CSS, HTML, and JavaScript, which are the languages that we are using to create digital products. So, all of that, thank you very much.